This is Rating Descending,
where we watch IMDb's Worst 250 so you don't have to.
My name is Abigail Ward.
And I'm Michelle St. Clair.
And tonight we watched Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl, a young criminal prodigy, hunts down a secret society of fairies to find his missing father. Let's watch.
Turkey's a fowl, right?
Yeah.
Is a turkey a fowl?
Yeah, turkey's a fowl. What's game?
Game is just fowl you can eat, right?
Is it like a bigger? Is fowl like size related?
No, fowl I think is a category of bird.
Yeah,
and game,
but is it size related in the category of bird? Is that what makes it a fowl?
I don't.
Is
think
it being
so.
under a certain amount, a certain size?
Do you want me to look it up?
Yes. Is fowl birds that can fly or can't fly?
Most birds.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, that's true.
Fowl are birds belonging to one of two biological orders, namely the game fowl or land fowl.
So game fowl. Oh my god,
and
they're
the waterfowl.
Same thing.
The waterfowl.
Game fowl.
Oh, because I always thought game would presumably be referring to the fact that they were like sport birds, but maybe it is just because
of the game fowl.
Because they're called game fowl.
I imagined from all the BBC dramas that I consumed as a child that fowl was like a smaller bird, and then game was like a big fat bird.
Ah.
Closer to a chicken or a turkey.
Well, because then there's also poultry, which is basically fowl, or any kind of domesticated bird
that you
raised
can eat.
for meat, eggs, or feathers.
Yeah.
So ostriches are technically poultry.
No way.
Yeah.
Who eats ostriches?
Well, people eat ostrich eggs.
Ew.
And feathers.
How big are
They don't
ostrich
eat the feathers,
eggs?
But they're fucking huge.
How big?
Have you ever seen an ostrich egg?
Bigger than my head?
I think it would be like as big as your head, which
Wow.
is like, you know, your head's pretty big, and that's pretty big for an egg, especially.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this photo of it compared to a chicken egg and a dollar bill.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they're huge.
They look so shiny. I did see a disgusting TikTok not long ago where someone had like boiled like an ostrich egg, I think.
Yeah.
And then they like shelled it and cut through it, and it was just uncomfortable because it is just a
Why?
giant normal egg, but there's something weird about it.
What I want to know, because I don't know this, I already knew how big ostrich eggs were because I feel like they were in 3 different kid sitcoms that I watched as a child. But like, how big is the yolk? Do they have a yolk?
The yolk is in proportion to the egg as you would expect a normal egg. It is like, it's a decent size.
I guess what that means, because like, volume wise, the way that scales up mean that, that's still like a lot of yolk, but that means there's a ton of white.
Yeah, lots of white.
So much.
Lots of white.
Oh my.
I think my discomfort about
covered in white.
The giant ostrich egg is more just my general discomfort with eggs.
Yeah,
There's something that just rubs me the wrong way with them.
What milk is to me, eggs are to you.
100%.
Oh, that's
like when I see someone, you scrambled some eggs for your lunch today, and I sat on the couch thinking, how come I never keep eggs in the house? And then I remembered they physically repulse me.
And notably, my scrambled eggs, no milk.
No milk.
Some people put milk in there.
It's just egg.
Nah, it's just egg.
That's crazy.
It's not that crazy.
That's like the least festive scrambled egg I've ever heard of.
Well, it's like, I know you can put in the milk to make it creamier, but just don't, like, why you're overcooking your eggs.
Do you use oil or butter?
Butter. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
alright.
like, it's a vegan butter.
Yeah. Well, that's a step up.
Yeah.
I feel like oil somehow makes it even more drab and dry and sad. But butter?
Yeah, that's not what you want.
Now we're cooking with gas. Every time I con myself into thinking I'll like eggs. Never happens.
I feel like I like eggs periodically. Like, you know, the different kinds of eggs occupy different spaces in my brain. Like a fried egg is so different than scrambled, and poached, different still.
I totally get you. I go through like the cycles of eggs. You know, there was a full egg the other day.
Where? What do you mean?
A full egg.
There was a full egg?
There was also an egg eclipse as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They dictate the title.
There was also an egg breaking dawn.
No, the egg cycle it's real.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about our uteruses.
I was about to make a joke about our egg cycle. Republicans are going to legislate the egg cycle.
No, this is what we're really talking about when we're talking about egg cycles. We're talking about the full egg that appears every month, but only to women.
What?
Only to women.
That's how I knew I was trans, as I looked into the sky and I saw the full egg.
The full egg appeared.
And my dude bro friend was like, what are you looking at? There's nothing there.
The moon is always like depicted as some kind of... I feel like we love slapping some feminine figure on like a thing. So like the moon...
The moon's a woman, the sun's a man.
Exactly. And there's like the moon goddess with like long flowy hair and she's in a gown.
Yeah.
What does the egg look like?
The egg?
Yeah, the egg goddess.
Short, squat, sort of like, you know, like Tolkien-esque dwarf. Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan is the egg.
Well, hi there. You're a woman.
The moon goddess, the sun god, and the Leslie Jordan egg.
The egg god. Because the egg is also for queers. It's for everybody except men.
The egg is for queers.
Except for straight cis white men. But for everyone else, the egg is there in the shape of Leslie Jordan.
The moon is for women, but the egg is for queers.
We're reserving that one.
Now this is the podcast.
Now this is it. Now we're back.
This is good content. Oh, this is good radio.
You know what? Today I feel like we're really back, man.
Yeah, we're
We've been
really
back for a month, but today we're really back.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Now that we're fully into egg lore.
Egg lore.
Yeah, that's all I want to talk about all day and all night.
If you had a T-shirt that said "Too much milk is mine is not enough eggs." And it's me with a basket and eggs are like dropping on me. And Leslie
too much
Jordan
milk,
is
not enough eggs.
Not enough eggs.
Yeah, eggs dropping on you. Leslie Jordan like laying. Imagine he's like laying on a cloud, like with a big pile behind him, just dropping them down. I hope we get to a point where we get fan art and someone draws that.
My question is, no, don't. I don't want to ask my question anymore. It was so stupid.
No, you.
It was another bad take.
You have to. Oh, okay. Well, play the stinger for Abby's bad take.
I was about to say, I caught myself. I was about to say the problem with eggs is that we don't eat anything else that comes out of a pussy, or a pussy. But every animal comes out of a pussy, so don't mind me. Just forget about it. Don't worry about it.
This is an interesting thing. Because do chicken eggs come out of a pussy? Because they come out of a cloaca. Do you count as cloaca as it is?
It's definitely half
both pussy and bussy.
Yeah, the pubussie.
The pubussie.
Yeah.
Well, what is
the technical term?
Is your urinary tract your yussy?
Yeah.
A pubussies.
An oosie.
This sounds like Baba Yaga's pussy. The pubussies.
Note it down, the pubussies. We've got so much to trademark right now.
The mythical pubussies is what births the god egg.
Speaking of, I don't want to relate pubussies to a children's film.
Yeah, but Fowl. That's how we started.
Speaking of Fowl.
Yeah.
Speaking of fowls, wow, full circle.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Not quite like an egg.
Full oval.
Full oval.
This week we watched Artemis Fowl.
Yeah.
And it was, quite frankly, a joy.
Yeah, it was charming.
It was sweet. I mean, it kind of fell apart in the second half, but that first like half an hour it was enchanting. Yeah. I was like, I'm here. I'm having fun.
See, this is an interesting thing that I will probably want to expand on. We talked about at the very end of the last episode. I've read the books. You haven't.
Yeah.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure there's 5 books. The first 3 almost felt like maybe they weren't, but they felt like a trilogy in that they were the same art style and size, and it felt like there was a bigger period of time gap. Again, maybe there wasn't, and it's just when you're 10 and when you're 13, it feels like a very different age. Then there was the 4th one, the Opal Ascension or something, Opal Conspiracy or something, that focuses on the villain from this one, Opal Cowboy. And then the 5th one was a few years after that, and that was like a demon-y one. I think that those are the only 5. Maybe there'd be more sins.
When I looked into it, they kept using terminology around like the first like phase and the second phase of books.
Oh.
Which I found, the first cycle and the second cycle of books.
Okay.
And the first cycle had heaps of books.
Oh,
well,
whoa.
it had 8 books.
Whoa.
And then the second cycle had 3.
Was the Opal Conspiracy the 4th book?
The Opal Deception.
Something like that.
Yeah, that was the 4th book. And
Okay.
the first cycle ended on The Last Guardian.
Oh,
And
I
then
think I read that one. Did I not read the books in between?
Well, let me read out the books to you.
Yeah, sure.
Artemis Fowl.
Yeah.
The Arctic Incident.
Yeah.
The Eternity Code.
Yep.
The Opal Deception.
Mm-hmm.
The Lost Colony.
Oh, that one I read, yeah.
The Time Paradox.
I read that one too. Did I read
The
more of these
Atlantis
books than I thought?
Complex?
I didn't read that one.
The Last Guardian.
Maybe I didn't read those last two.
But maybe you read about 5 or 6 of them.
I thought I read 5, but I might have actually been conflating 2 books in my head, and I read 6.
Well, the 8th of the first cycle, it came out in 2012, so I think you had just outgrown them by that point.
By that point I was 17.
Yeah.
And I was onto fucking books about pussy. And
Yeah, looking up pussy on the internet.
that is definitely how my pornography journey started.
Same.
Was Googling
I think I've
vagina.
told everyone this. I tried to Google vagina, but I spelled it Virginia. I couldn't fathom why I was sent to maps of the US.
I would Google porno and then look at Google Images for a while.
But the first book came out in 2001, so it had like a good 10-year, 11-year life for the first cycle. In terms of the second cycle, like the last book of the second cycle came out, doesn't even have a date on it. 2021, they're still going.
I assume it must be like there's a time, because like in those later books, he is getting older.
Yeah.
So it must be like him as an adult or his kid or something.
So apparently the second cycle isn't focusing anymore on Artemis. It's focusing
very funny
on
for the series.
His younger twin brothers, Miles and Beckett Fowl.
What?
Yeah, the Fowl twins.
I was confused. I thought you meant they were twins to him. His
younger brothers.
Okay, wait. When were they introduced? I don't remember them at all.
I have no idea.
Maybe that's the first book of the second cycle. Is like, hey, I got brothers.
Well, what did you think of the books? Did you love the books?
I really liked them.
Yeah, because they had a lot of clout. They were very popular, but it was just something I never got around to reading.
The first one, to be honest, if I remember, I actually it was only on the third read that I finished it. Because the thing I want to talk about when we get into the episode proper is that it's got a very distinct structure that is not matched in this movie.
Oh, yeah. I've read a lot about the differences between this film and the books.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to throughout the episode be someone who's like, it's different from the books. Where are all the words?
Yeah.
But I think the differences are what let down parts of it. Yeah, and when I finished it that third time, I loved it. And then I just powered through the second and third one, which are pretty good, but not quite as good.
Yeah.
And then that fourth one, the Opal Deception, was incredible.
Really?
At the time, I was like, feels like it's fucking expanding my brain in what books can do.
Why was it so good? Like, what in particular stood out for you as the moment?
I think because like the first 3 feel like episodic in a way. They feel like like how you would have movie sequels that don't really lead to anything.
Yeah.
Whereas the fourth one, taking a villain who I'm pretty sure was not in the first one, but
Opal?
Was Opal a villain in the first one? I don't think she was.
I don't know. I know that obviously Opal is the villain in the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Opal is the villain in the first book.
Yeah,
Let's have a look.
One of my early flags of I was like, wait, hang on. Because I think she's the villain in the second or third one.
I don't think, Opal doesn't seem to be mentioned in the plot of the first book at all.
So for one, it was like bringing back this villain, but the way the first act of the book, instead of it being like, oh, there's a journey we're going to go on, is like they're in this like stasis, they're happy, all of these things are happening. And then Opal like systematically goes through and like fucks up completely every single one of their lives. Like,
oh, wow.
Dom almost gets obliterated by like an organic EMP, and then he's like now crippled essentially. And like all of them are fully at like their lowest low.
Yeah.
Right? And it just feels like the stakes are really high. And it felt really like twisty in a clever way. It just was really, really cool.
All of the reviews for the novels are outstanding.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously, I feel like if there's a children's book series that's really getting a lot of attention, it's always very well written. Always. Because kids are far more discerning than we think that they are.
Yeah. It really was. It really felt really great. And I think if it had more cultural attention, I probably would have like held it in my brain for longer, but Opal Deception always stuck with me.
Well, doing some brief research into the novels, what struck me is that Holly Short has way more of a perspective and POV than I expected. If anything, she reads as almost the protagonist of the first Artemis Fowl book, and he's the antagonist.
Yes. So that was why the first time I read it, I was probably just slightly too young.
Yeah.
But my big praise of it is it's really complex and challenging in its dealing with morality as well. The Holly Short's boss is a really complex character for young children who is not a villain, but consistently working against who we think of as the hero.
Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of starts at what in the movie is the midpoint. Like Holly Short has been captured and it's her POV.
Yeah.
It's only the second one that it starts to be about Artemis.
And obviously, like, Artemis is known in the books to be this kind of, like, badass, like, I don't know, like, mastermind criminal in a suit and glasses. But we see in this film that he doesn't start out that way, which is a very particular decision that Kenneth Branagh, the director, made. Can't believe Kenneth Branagh directed this thing.
I can. It's the reverse of the journey in the first book, though, where you see him at the beginning as, like, a mastermind villain, and then Holly finds things of, like, he's actually working for good.
And then, exactly right. And they reversed it for the film because I think Kenneth Branagh thought that Artemis wouldn't be likable if he started out as the villain. He really wanted him to be likable. So he really just changed the foundation of what the books tried to do, which is showing him as a good guy eventually. They were just like, he needs to be good and then he needs to become badass. They were thinking about the kids. Like, again, they were almost underestimating the intelligence of kids, being like, he has to be good, otherwise kids won't like him. And it's not the case. You know how many kids love villainous characters? Kids love questionable characters.
Crazy for Kenneth Branagh, who has never made a successful kids anything.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Branagh has given some performances that I think are really neat. He's responsible.
He's a great Shakespearean actor. Like, no doubt about it.
He's responsible for a quote from that friend of the podcast, Gaiden Souza, introduced me to, where he was while he was directing Thor, of like an actor, I can't remember which one, was saying, like, this feels a little hammy, and he said, sometimes we have to swim in the river of ham.
Yeah,
You know?
you've told me that one. And also, like, he has his contributions to, like, some good Shakespearean adaptations, we'll always love him for. But I will never forgive him for cheating on Emma Thompson. Ever.
Look, that's fair.
I don't like Hamlet.
Yeah, I hate his Hamlet
But I loved
adaptation.
his Othello. I loved his Much Ado About Nothing.
Yeah,
I think he's done some incredible performances as well. He's a good actor. He really is. I didn't see Belfast, but I heard a lot of good things about it as well. So he's done some things okay. I wouldn't write him off as just talentless ever. Yeah. I think he is quite talented. It's just that he is not really a director.
I'm just tired of him directing things because he wants to act in them, Poirot, and then not giving any effort into making them good.
Yeah, I mean, also that first Thor film was honestly rubbish. No, I've never seen anything as awful as that first Thor film. The Dutch tilt and the lack of chemistry between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth, like, it was insane.
You mean you never wanted to see Thor just, like, hang out in the desert and sort of not do anything for 90 minutes at an angle?
What was Kenneth Branagh doing going close to the MC universe? I don't understand.
Well, I actually think he could.
MU, not MC.
It is MCU.
Okay, yes.
This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah, whereas, the goal of him to go, I think what this incredibly successful and critically acclaimed book series needs is a correction.
Yeah, and lots of corrections and lots of changes. Because don't get me wrong, I'm also of the opinion of films are a different medium. If you need to change them to benefit the plot, so be it. But he went too far. He made changes that really made fans of the book be like, this isn't the world that I know and the world that I love, and I feel betrayed and I feel bored. Like,
which is annoying because there's things that are so charming, but I also think the fundamental restructuring grinds that makes the movie's pacing abysmal.
And I found it charming because I wasn't a fan of the book, so I didn't know what to compare it to. But if I had read the books and I watched that first 30 minutes, I would be like, what the fuck? This is completely different to what I remembered from the books. Yeah. Completely.
I almost, like, forgot just enough that I was in it until, like, the plan started happening, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is where the book starts. What the fuck? Why is it like 45 minutes in?
The first, like, the setup of Artemis and his dad being played by Colin Farrell, so fun. Just like the weird montage sequences of them, like, pretending to discuss Irish folklore in their big beautiful manner,
including my favorite line that I wrote down. He's from the most magical and wonderful place on earth, Ireland. No, it's perfect.
To be honest, when I watched this film, I had just finished season 3 of Derry Girls, so I was in an incredibly Irish mood. So this really perfect timing. If anything, they made it somehow less magical than Derry Girls even manages to depict Ireland.
It made me emotional enough because all I want in my lifetime is a united Ireland. That's all. It would make me so happy.
Anyway, loved that it was set in Ireland. Didn't know it was set in Ireland. And also Kenneth Branagh's Irish, so That's nice.
That's
loves,
neat.
Loves it.
I think that's why, like, I think he succeeded more than you did in making Ireland feel magical. But it felt American. It didn't feel Irish.
Yeah. Do you want the overview?
Yeah.
12-year-old genius and snob Artemis Fowl, because fuck, he's a snob at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'll get back to that.
That's the point. Anyway.
Lives with his cool dad in a large manor. His dad teaches him about fairies and Irish folklore before absconding off again on business. His dad is taken hostage, and Artemis is told to find the Aculos in 3 days to save him. Aculos? Aculos. Inside the Earth's core is a city of fairies called Haven City, where a young officer called Holly Short is assigned to go to the Earth's surface to investigate a troll. From his father's journal, Artemis learns that Holly's father, Beechwood, brought the Aculos to Artemis's father to keep it from the main villain of the movie, Opal Cowboy?
Cowboy.
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 Opal is keeping Artemis's father captive and was once the ruthless dictator of Haven City, who is now planning to wipe out humankind and establish fairy rule upon all the worlds. Holly is captured by Artemis, but they join forces to fight off officers from Haven City who siege the Fowl Manor. Holly manages to summon Artemis's father back to the manor using the Aculos, and the Fowls are reunited. I skimmed over a bunch of shit in that third act because it was rubbish.
In particular, though, you skimmed over the framing device of Mulch Diggum's best character and played by Josh Gad.
I know. Josh Gad in this was so fun, to be honest.
Good.
He really gave it 140%. He gave us his full bussy in this film.
I think he was a good Mulch Diggums.
He was really fun. And Mulch Diggums at one point eats the Aculos to keep it safe.
Yeah.
And then kind of just opens his mouth up and pulls it out, which is gory as fuck.
He felt like, for all the problems, he felt exactly Mulch Diggums.
The problem with these overviews is that you have to pick and choose what is worth mentioning for the main plot line. Mulch Diggums.
Diggums. Because he's the digger.
Is a really fun character, and he does shape the main plot towards the end. But
he's a giant dwarf. He's
a giant. It is.
It's the exact sort
and
of
everyone being like, "You're not a dwarf,"
like.
and him being like, "I'm a dwarf." It's fun. It is fun.
Yeah,
he's a good character.
The thing, like, it's. I feel like it's a gag you see a lot of, like, character has trait that is notable to people not of that species, but amongst species is notable in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So everyone being like, "You're giant," but to all of the rest of the characters, he is small.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things I love about Artemis Fowl in general is that they are a short gang. They're all short, and then fucking Domovoy is so tall. It's great.
Going back to the beginning, Artemis is such a fucking snob.
Yeah.
Like, I hated him in that first scene, especially the bit where he's talking to his therapist, and his therapist is like, "This is an antique from the 17th
it's the school
century."
Principal.
I thought it was a therapist because he was like, didn't he say he didn't he call him a therapist at one point?
I mean, I thought that was just a joke about how he's acting, but
Maybe
I thought
it's
he was the school principal.
He's in a chair that's like from the 16th century.
Yeah.
And he's bragging about it. And at the end of the conversation, Artemis circles back being like, 19th century. Like, I can date those pins from the 1860s, yada, 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 and walks out.
I mean, what's his face was being a fucking snob about it and going like, "Ooh, the Queen once had this chair." I'm like, "You're an island."
I know, but I love how Kenneth Branagh is like, "I really need to make him likable." And I'm like, I don't think he succeeded. He's so annoying.
Well, that's why it doesn't work, right? Is the whole, if his journey is like from sort of snobby dick into someone more nuanced, then like you don't make him more likable by focusing on him.
Yeah,
that's why it was clever to make him the villain.
Because like they get him into like basically normal kid clothes at the beginning, and they try and I guess just make him more approachable. That's it. Like, this is Artemis's world. He's a normal kid, but he's really fucking smart and a genius. But it just doesn't translate. It's not interesting. I think if they stuck to the initial thing of kind of unfolding how he is actually a good person, if they just stuck to the material that was given to them.
The thing that's really satisfying about the books is because they're about a boy genius that requires like the feeling of smartness, and the feeling of cleverness is most easily at least communicated in books like through like mystery and then reveal. So often like Artemis is a few steps ahead, which is why the Opal Deception is great, is it's the first time that he's really, really behind.
Yeah.
Right? But in that first one, like he is a mystery. And so it's the slow reveal of his character as Holly Short is investigating.
Well,
right?
My question, as you have read the books, is that Holly Short sounds like the protagonist or the surrogate, like the audience surrogate in the first book. Does that change to Artemis? for the second book, or does he remain that kind of character that's getting observed by the protagonist?
I think that's some of the tension of why I don't think the second and third ones are as effective. Because, like, by Opal Deception, it is Artemis is the protagonist and Holly is the deuteragonist.
Yeah.
Right? In the second one sort of tries to find a mid-ground, if I remember, that it didn't really. And the third one is where it starts being more about Artemis, but it leaves the reader going like, where's Holly?
Yeah.
The fourth one is better at going like, yeah, it's Artemis, but Holly's still really here.
Yeah.
You know?
I did have to say that when the action kind of kicks off in the movie, especially around like the middle to the third act, and there's a huge elongated fight scene at the Fowl Manor.
Yeah.
It was so hard to follow everything. It was going so quickly. It was so much nonsense.
Yeah,
the fight scenes were not great.
But no, okay. I agree that, like, I think the troll fight scene was not great, especially because it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
If you rip it out, you get to the fucking thing beginning sooner. Anyway, and I don't think one of the later fights was as good. Like, when I say troll fight, I mean either troll fight.
Yeah.
The one in the manor and the earlier one.
Yeah.
But when they're fighting the guards outside, I was like, you know, this is like really over stylized and wonky, but it's the exact sort of stylized that kids like. It would fucking rip.
That's the thing.
If you're
as much
8.
as I'm like criticizing it, when I was so enchanted by the first 30 minutes, I was thinking, yeah, if I was like fucking 10 and I watched this, it would blow my mind.
But that's,
you know?
I think that's the distinction I'm making. If I was 10, the troll scene, I would still like unfocus.
Yeah.
But with that scene, I would go, holy shit. Yeah.
Harry Potter did nail, like the movies did nail the troll scene. That fight scene in the bathrooms, pretty fucking standard, pretty decent. People remember
Chris
it.
Columbus is a great director.
He's a very good director. He did it well. The fight scenes never went for too long, and they were slow enough for you to be able to follow everything that was happening and where people were.
Yeah.
In this film, it was like everyone was flying in multiple directions all at the same time and moving around. And I was like, I don't know where anyone
but there was
is.
some cool visuals, like later when the time break, the time hole, the time spot or whatever, was falling apart. Like you see Holly get like sucked through bits, and there's this like cool like depth visual they're doing.
Yeah.
I thought it was really rad. I was like, this kind of fucks. I have in my notes, how is Disney Plus doing better CG than Marvel? And I know the real answer is that they have to keep to deadlines and pay closer to unionized worker, and Marvel just bullies the fuck out of everyone.
Also, the cast of this film, shockingly good.
Shockingly
I mean,
good.
Judi fucking Dench.
Yeah.
Playing, what's the name of the...
Commander...
Oh, it's a weird name. They're all weird names.
It wasn't that weird. It was like Commander Sprout or something, because she's Holly Short as Commander Root. Commander
it was
Root.
Root, yeah.
Of a joke that I don't think I ever really got as a kid of Lep Recon is the name of the police department, which is really funny.
It's great.
I don't think when
It's
I
a
was
good pun.
reading it, I ever got it. And then hearing them go like, leprechaun. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Also, it had some like good classic British actors. You know how we're talking about how, because this reminded me a lot in some ways because we just watched it, of Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Just because it was like this strange mishmash of American, Irish, and English actors all kind of crammed into a movie together, which I enjoy. And I was saying, like, of course, the English actors always stand out to me because my brain has been absolutely tainted by BBC. But I had a lot of good British character actors just playing goblins and gnomes. Adrian Scarborough was in it, which is super fun.
There was just the guy that played Ollie in Misfits, and he was Rory in About Time.
Yeah, Joshua Maguire. Yeah.
Man, normally I'm the one who knows their name. I can't believe you know their name.
He was Rory in About Time.
Yeah.
And he was, Ollie and Misfits. I know every BBC actor's name. If you're good with American actors, I'm good with English actors.
Yeah. If they've been in an NBC sitcom, I know them. And
if they've been in anything BBC, I'm all over it. Or BBC 4 even. But I feel like Claude is always just like, yeah, it's that actor. And I'm just like, I say the name and he's like, that's fucked.
Meanwhile, in
one
real
should know
life,
that.
I'm like, there's critical tasks I'll forget, like people's names. I don't remember fucking anything.
There's scenes of this movie I can't remember, but I'm like, oh, but that actor, that particular actor that was in so and so and so and so. Brains are fickle like that. Why don't they remember the things we need them to remember?
I don't know. Speaking of the cast, though, I think that the guy that played Domovoy was neat. Like, it's obviously a whole thing, because I don't think he was black in the books.
He was apparently Eurasian in the books.
Oh, he was Eurasian. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know he was at least part Russian, because there's a lot more Russian connection in the books, because like his dad is like embroiled with the Russian mafia, and that's why he's missing until the second book.
Yeah.
He's not in the first one.
Yeah.
And that's why he's called Domovoy and stuff.
Apparently, Kenneth Branagh Kenneth Branagh was kind of loose with all of the casting, and that he just thought the guy that played Dom, he was just like, that's the guy. That's who I want. That's who I imagine for the character. And I don't think and then apparently some people were outraged, being like, but he was Eurasian. And
whatever.
I feel like Kenneth Branagh, it's not like he cast a white guy.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. I don't think he did anything wrong in casting this guy.
I think it's much more likely that it's the kind of people who would be angry if it's a black guy at all.
Yeah.
Weaponizing language, because that's what they do a lot.
But yeah, it was charming.
It's charming.
It's a fun film. I had a really good time with it, and I learned about it. Made me want to read Artemis Fowl.
It kind of made me want to reread them.
Yeah. Have you still got the books?
No, because like many of my things, I have almost nothing from when I was a kid. So like my book collection, like I basically started buying books when I met you, you know, like all my books from a kid, I don't know what happened. They like fucking vanished into the ether.
Did your mom just kind of sell them between moves sometime?
Maybe. Well, we moved so many times as a kid.
I feel like books are so annoying to move.
Yeah.
I can almost understand.
And we sometimes lived in places where there was not much space.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I grew up in the tiniest 2-bedroom apartment that one has ever seen. My mom still somehow managed to cram 12 bookshelves in there. Don't know how. There's probably like 2,000 books shoved into that tiny little house.
Meanwhile, like I spend so much energy trying to make sure that I can see all of my things, because if I lose track of it, like it just doesn't exist.
Right? My mum, some of her bookshelves are under the kitchen counter. Like they were built in there before we moved in.
Yeah.
So she has like, they're so deep that she's got 3 different rows of books down there. And I'm like, but you don't know what's there. So she actually, my mum catalogued all of her books. She literally made sections in the house and catalogued all of them. So if she wants to read something, she can browse through it.
This is why I'm like your mum.
I know. Lots of similarities.
It's so funny. All of my notes are like a combination of like, this is really rad, and wait, is this like this? I think his sunglasses, like they're the exact sort of thing that is like, as an adult, this is obviously cringe and silly.
Yeah.
But if I was 10, the intended audience, that's fucking cool. His like reflective
even when you're
sunglasses.
Like 14, you think Ray-Bans are sick.
Yeah. Well, we did, but that's why we weren't cool.
Yeah, I know. Shut the fuck up. Everyone thought they were cool, man.
Yeah. Well,
everyone thought they were cool. They had their moment in the sun.
But I mean, that kind of like reflective material especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he was a kid. I don't know why I wanted to whack the kid that played Artemis Fowl
I think he did a good job.
He was all right. He was okay.
Fine. It was Colin Farrell as his dad only rubbed me the wrong way, because like the whole thing is that his dad is sort of like missing.
Yeah.
The first one is a lot more about his mum is sick.
Yeah.
She's like sick upstairs the whole time.
Oh, I have like the list of differences between the book and the movie. Yeah. If you want to get into some trivia.
Actually, you know what? Even though part of me wants to keep talking about it, let's do it, because then we can just expand on that.
Yeah. IMDb trivia. Well, here you go. So like this is you can expand on this list with me if you'd like, but there was a couple of things listed here that I didn't recognize because they were just from the book and it didn't appear in the movie. So I was like, I can't really talk about that because I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
So I took the things that I did recognize. Here's a couple of ways that the movie differs from the books. Artemis's dad does not appear in the first book, and his rescue is the plot for the second book.
Yeah.
That's what you already told me. Artemis's mum is alive and mad. She lives at the house in her own world while all of this takes place.
Yeah. In particular, because the dad's rescue is in the second book, like I said, from the Russian mafia, because that's a whole like recurring thing. And I don't want to say he dies, but I don't remember him being around in the later books.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm just misremembering, but...
Well, apparently... I mean, actually, that's a different piece of trivia, but I'll just say it now. Colin Farrell shot his scenes in 3 days.
That tracks. He's in like one room.
Yeah, exactly. And he's in 2 rooms. One, he's chatting to Artemis. The other, he's hanging by his wrists, you know?
But it feels very much like Kenneth Branagh, rather than going like, oh, let's simplify it. You know, this mother story, it's like, oh, to connect with the audience, you know, like people love father and son stories more than this, you know, so that'll be like the thing. And I'm like, you're really just thinking from your personal perspective.
Yeah, and to be honest, like I understand that like themes around family are universal, but kids actually like watching things that just involve a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Like that's why we fucking love Spy Kids. It is about family, but you get to watch the kids like just do shit together.
But it's also why it was so critical in the first one, like Holly discovering that Artemis is doing this for his mum, that is clearly like not all there, but also like that means that he's like alone in the house is like really crucial, and it feels so undermined.
The fact that he's got this mum that's like completely mentally absent in the house and a father that's physically absent is sad. That's really sad.
It gets you sympathetic for it.
In the movie, it's like his life is perfect. Even when his dad goes away and he misses him sometimes, his life is perfect.
I don't even know what that word means.
Don't know why they got rid of the mum.
Yeah.
Juliet is Butler's sister in the books. Not his. Yeah.
And she didn't have a...
and she's a spunky teen obsessed with wrestling. That sounds so much more interesting than the Juliet we got in the movie.
As soon as I saw Juliet, my brain... Because again, I haven't read it since I was 11 or 12. I was like, I don't remember him having a daughter. And I remember there being someone else who was like way... Like, she was done dirty.
Yeah, she was. Because like when I read a tiny bit about her in the books, I was like, she sounds like one of the most interesting characters that there is.
She is.
She's obsessed with wrestling.
They're clearly setting up, like, if they made more movies, she'd be the love interest.
Yeah.
And every time...
no chemistry.
Whenever a fucking Hollywood movie, like, makes someone a love interest, they decide to strip them of all personality.
Right? There's literally a scene where she's like, Artemis, you've got to stop. You've got to eat. And she makes him a sandwich. I was like, this is gross.
It's nothing.
This is lame.
In every TV show...
You've got Juliet to take care of you. Great.
All the time in TV, when a character, like, becomes a love interest, or at least, like, they get into the relationship, the woman loses all personality.
Always. I mean, it's what happened to me. I got married. Holly running out of magic is a major plot point in the book.
Yeah.
Which is not part of the movie at all.
Well, I think they tried.
They have a small moment where at the end she's like, I need more.
Well, it's instead of it being that she's run out of magic, they reframe it as her magic is like
capped,
remote activated by the police department.
Yeah, and like they've turned it off.
Yeah.
But in the books, apparently she can just run out. She has a capacity that she can use up.
Yes.
Which is a different kind of conflict device.
It's because like it wasn't quite like a hard magic system, but it was trying to place limitations and explanations.
Yeah, but then she could just be like, hey guys, can I please have it back so I can resurrect Dom? And they were like, sure.
They were like, all right, he
Cool.
seems more chill.
Yeah. And
So
that
weird.
death scene with Dom was not emotional whatsoever. Like
No,
I found
it wasn't.
It
I was
could have
just
been
confused because I was like, I remember him in the later ones. What is this? I was like, did they, what?
Also, apparently in the books, Holly is a fantastic pilot. That's like her main skill, and it's not pictured in this movie.
Someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they don't have wings. They have wing packs, like almost like a jetpack, but
cool.
wings.
That's cool.
And so she's a great pilot.
Yeah. Those were the main differences listed. What are other ones that you noticed, if you have any?
Well, like I said, her POV is a big one. And by the way, the more I think about it, the more I really like Artemis becomes more central because the stories are more about his journey, but Holly always continues to have POV stories.
Yeah, interesting. So she's
right?
far more of a protagonist than this movie lets on.
Yes.
Yeah.
This treats her like almost swapping them because she's sort of an antagonist and then she turns into an ally for no reason.
Yeah, it's definitely Artemis's POV from the start of the film.
Yeah, it's some of the stuff that is otherwise either flashback or explanation is what comprises that opening 30 minutes. But like I said, a lot of the stuff around the dad is known for thievery. He's one of those like I said, he has connections to the Russian mafia, and that's one thing that is complex for Artemis as well. But why he's like, I'm a big international thief. You realize by the end of it is that he's putting on a front. This is his first heist.
Yeah.
It's a front. He's just trying to be like his dad and leverage that reputation to save his mom.
Yeah.
That's why like the reconstruction of like they're really close and he goes to this school and all of that. No, I don't think he goes to school at all.
Right. Okay. There you go.
I think the stuff about Beechwood is pretty much the same. But that's why a thing that doesn't work in the movie as much is that like Holly was sent there, but she's at much more conflict with Commander Root because Root is the one who doesn't trust her.
Yeah, but in the movie, Root is kind of like, let me give you your chance. Even though what your dad did was terrible, I need you right now.
Because it's Cowboy's like in Opal's inside man, Curmudgeon or something.
Curmudgeon.
I think his name is
great.
Cudgeon.
Right.
Yeah, he's taking the like, no, stop thing, but that's what I mean. Root is a complicated character because she's against Holly, But
in the movie, Root has very little character. She's just kind of there making decisions and looking kind of sour the entire time. But I got no indication of where her real alliances were, her thoughts and feelings on things. She didn't present as a complicated character in this movie.
She, if I remember, kind of wants to like send everyone in and trash the place. And Holly has to keep being like, I know I'm like in this thing,
Yeah.
but let me figure it out.
Also-
I can save this mission.
Poor Judi Dench having to do that voice for Root. That must have been harrowing.
Yeah.
All right, send a mission now.
Yeah.
Like, how did she do that?
But I thought it was neat. Like, I like that she was doing a voice.
She was doing a voice.
Like, Branagh got Judi Dench to do a voice.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Branagh could get Judi Dench to do a voice. I mean, he's got that power. He just does.
Mulch Diggums does not have the frame story in the books in the way he does in
They
this.
just needed a narrator.
Yeah, well, because it's the whole thing. Like, by not starting it at the middle, they still want to have a frame.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need a frame when you do that.
Oh my God, can we linger on Josh Gad for a second? I did some research into him, and apparently he's very vocal about the fact that he has generalized anxiety disorder, but the acronym for that is GAD.
Oh, wow.
Just something to keep in mind.
I like Gad.
I like GAD.
I remember... Because he's been on like Broadway, right? Like he's a real singer. Notably, they try and exploit that in Pixels. And whatever. I don't care about that movie.
Yeah.
But he's in a couple episodes of New Girl, and in one of them, they use it to great effect, where he's playing like a real weird guy, and a couple of times he gets to burst out singing, and it's like beautiful operatic singing. It's so good. He's great. Oh, also, obviously, the whole ending is not per the books because it's like 3 different books mashed together.
Yeah, it's like the way like Lemony Snicket, the 2004 film, mashed the first 3 books together to create one story.
That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you're kind of undermining your ability to franchise.
Yeah. Do you want to hear the rest of my trivia?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So this film, it has been in development since 2001.
Oh my God.
Keeping in mind it came out in 2020.
Oh my God.
Owen Colfer, who's the guy that wrote the books.
Is it pronounced? I always wanted to know how it's pronounced. I always like pronounced it like Ewan, which
I'm pretty sure that's just the Irish slang for Owen.
Yeah. I know that as an adult now.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
Owen Colfer has jokingly stated, or is it Ian? No, I think it's Owen. Hang on, I need to know now. I've always assumed it was just Owen.
I know some of the basic Irish pronunciations, but I don't know that one. But I never even put together that obviously he's Irish. You know, there was a different kids author who was Irish that I liked, Darren Shan. He wrote a bunch of vampire books right before Twilight, and it just wasn't able to leverage that into something more.
It's pronounced like the English version, Owen.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Owen Colfer has jokingly stated that the movie would be finished 2 years after he died. The movie spent 19 years in development hell due to several setbacks. Early attempts started in 2001, but the project didn't get seriously moving until the Weinstein Company acquired the book rights in 2003 and planned to have the movie adaptation released under the Miramax banner. No progress was made from 2006 to 2013. In 2013, Walt Disney Studios partnered with the Weinstein Company in order to have Michael Goldenberg adapt the first 2 books. Because Disney didn't like the main character's roguish and anti-heroic nature, Sir Kenneth Branagh was appointed as director to change the tone. And he brought in Conor McPherson for extensive rewrites. So this was done around 2016, still 15 years on. Casting was then complete in 2017, and production finally started in 2018, with an intended release in 2019. Jeez. However, the sex scandals surrounding producer Harvey Weinstein and the acquisition of 20th Century Fox added a lot of new releases to Disney's schedule and caused Artemis Fowl to be further postponed. The COVID-19 crisis, as well as furious reactions to the changes made to the source material seen in the trailer, finally made Disney decide not to wait for a cinema release and launched the movie on their streaming platform Disney+. The film's extended post-production time, as well as extensive deleted scenes that were released together with the film, suggest that the film was heavily edited before its release.
Doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, that is a hellish experience.
Yeah.
That's fucked up. Because even though there was like delays and delays and delays, it sounds like around 2016 they tried to get it moving. So that's still a 4-year production as well.
As far as I know, this is the movie that is like the latest release before we froze the list. Like it was released like a month or 2 before we froze the list. So like this is the newest movie we will ever cover. Yeah. That's on the list.
A lot of drama around it. Apparently Saoirse Ronan at one point was considered for Holly Short, but that was way back in the day when she was a lot younger.
Well, I think that's also just because someone was like, you know who looks like a fucking elf?
Yeah, honestly.
Saoirse Ronan.
Did you guys see that Atonement movie? It's like an elf in the making. Owen Colfer cameoed in the film.
Oh, cool. cool.
Apparently, he cameoed in just one day's shoot. He said, it wasn't too taxing, although I did manage to get it wrong a few times. The only direction they gave me was walk across the field and don't look at the camera. I must have looked at the camera about 20 times. I have a new respect for actors. He sounds like such a sweetie.
What scene did he cameo in? Was he just one of the soldiers?
He was just like, I think he was one of the gnomes. Or the goblins. Like, you know, the ones that were like kind of evil? I think he was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'd assumed he would have just been one of Leprechaun.
I don't think he was. I thought he was... actually, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we don't know.
I couldn't find it.
There's no way to find out.
There's literally no way to find out. According to the author Owen Colfer, one of the early attempts by the Weinstein Company to adapt his book resulted in a screenplay that was best described as a scary movie-like parody pastiche of other fantasy series.
Oh, what?
It even included characters from Lord of the Rings. He said, it really wasn't an Artemis Fowl movie at all. It was just using the name. That was truly horrifying. With each new director, my heart sank a little bit more.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was, in the early 2000s, that was something they were considering as well.
Yeah.
And
there's so many, by the way, book adaptations that have no respect for the source material. And on the one hand, sometimes you get a Starship Troopers where it's like, oh, a fascist wrote this? Yeah, this is a fascist thing. But so often, like Henry Cavill recently said he's not coming back for season 4 of The Witcher amid reports that the showrunner and some of the writers hate the books.
Oh, really?
And are actively trying to change it. And as someone who, I really like those books. And, you know, I really respect Cavill for doing that. And that bums me out because I was so excited they were making a show. And so I didn't have to go, hey, people, can you read these 7 books?
Yeah.
And instead I could go, can you watch this show? That's such a... Why would you agree to make it? I know it's just so that you have a showrunner thing and then you can leverage your way up and it's your own fucking career, but come on, man.
I'm definitely one for, again, I'll say again, I don't mind when people need to make changes to suit the show and to make it a better show. But when you're like completely disregarding the source material, that's just shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't like it when people would watch Game of Thrones and be like, that didn't happen in the books. It's like, it's close fucking enough. It's like 85%, 90% true to the books. And then there's a couple of deviations and people are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, well, that's why with this, I like some of the changes I actually don't mind at all. They mean nothing. I'm like, it's a movie now. There's no words.
Yeah.
That's the biggest change.
Yeah.
But the structural changes more than anything like hurt it.
And also changing the entire perspective and character of Artemis.
Yeah.
Crazy move.
It's too much. You're just writing a different thing.
Yeah. My last piece of trivia. The kid that played Artemis was called Ferdia Shaw. He was never really in anything else.
Oh.
He is the grandson of Robert Shaw, best known as Quint from Jaws.
Ah.
Yeah.
So it's just a dirty little Nepo baby?
Yeah, little Nepo fucking
Filthy little Nepo kid.
Do you want to hear some reviews?
Yeah, I do. Reviews!
On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 8%. That's really fucking low.
Whoa.
The website's critics' consensus reads, a would-be franchise starter that will anger fans of the source material and leave newcomers befuddled. Artemis Fowl is frustratingly flightless. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter wrote that the film becomes a wearying slog with too little reason to invest in the bland characters amid all the chaos. I will say, for such a fantastical film, a lot of the characters were so bland. They were. Peter de Bruges of Variety called the film torturously long at just 93 minutes. Jesus.
Whoa.
Scott Mendelson of Forbes wrote that the film fails on a fundamental level of, is this movie fun? And do I want to spend any more time with these characters? And described it as one of the worst YA fantasy movies ever.
No, that guy was not a kid/teen in the 2000s. That was when every single book they could get their hands on, the studios were going to go, let's do a new Harry Potter, and every YA thing became a movie, and they were all the fucking worst.
There's actually so many bad reviews from critics for this film because it came out on Disney Plus, so it got a lot of attention, I think, and it had a lot of hype.
It's better than what is that, the Mortal Instruments movie or the Divergent series, all of those ones that were just utter trash.
And again, it's a kid's film. These adults being like, this is sloppy and shit. It's like, yeah, and I understand that you can still have quality with the kids' films, but also give it a bit more of a break, just a bit. And then Barry Hertz of the Globe and Mail gave the film 1.5 out of 4 stars, saying it was a confusing, muddled, sloppy mess of bad intentions and worse execution. Whoa. I don't think the intentions were bad.
I don't think it was bad intentions.
Here is an IMDb review. It was left by Pistol219 called Keeping Imagination Alive, 10 out of 10. I found this very original and unique. Not sure why low reviews. It is an old folktale story time.
What?
10 out of 10.
What?
This was left by Callisto069 called Great Disney Movie, 10 out of 10. I really don't understand such many bad critics. This is a great, entertaining Disney movie. I enjoyed it. Smiley face. 10 out of 10. This one is called, ooh, a lot of haters out there. Left by Neil Davison 354-77074.
Tons of Neil Davidson.
Too many. To kids, adults, and old farts like me. It's a bit of fun, and it's not really real, you know. Give it a break, as I enjoyed it, and it's just a bit of escapism from the rest of the world problems we are all experiencing. Thumbs up. I enjoyed it anyway, and I am 56 years. 10 out of 10. That's so sweet.
Sounds like it was written by a 10-year-old trying to be 56, but yeah, sure.
This was left by Eric Sassoni. I'm so glad he left his full name. Definitely not a 10 is the subject line.
Wait.
Definitely not a 10. But I'm evening out the score here with angry book enthusiasts. Coming in cold wasn't half bad. Fairly entertaining. Definitely not a 1. Maybe a true 5.8. 10 out of 10.
There's always so many of those people going like, it's not a 10, but come on, it's not that low.
It's a 10 out of 10. And this one, it was left by Tess80222. I loved it. Fuck you all is the subject line. I loved this movie, and you are stopping me from getting a sequel. Please stop writing negative reviews. 10 out of 10.
Yes. No, I love that. That's how I feel every time something I like is like divisive, like fucking conservatives have decided to make fun of it. I'm like, no, please, there needs to be another one. Shut up.
I love that. Tess, we love you. Well, that was Tess's review. What's your review, Michelle?
The changes from the book, I think, hurt it.
Yeah.
But they didn't like offend me. It's not like I've seen adaptations where the changes work and where the changes don't work. Like Douglas Adams famously rewrites it from scratch, like every time he would adapt Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Remember when the movie of that came out, people were like, it's not like the book. And then people were like, yeah, but the book's not like the radio play, the original. And he wrote it.
Yeah.
But I think they were for the worse and stem from Kenneth Branagh's arrogance.
Yeah.
And also mean like, you know, some of the characters, I didn't even get to talk about Foley, who to you would have just been like a kind of neat side
but
character.
I know he's a main character in the books.
He's one of the gang.
Yeah.
It's like Mulch and Foley are like equal important fan favorites.
They made a big deal about Foley arriving, but didn't use him much in the movie. And then I didn't find his character very interesting in the movie either. Like I was just kind of like, yeah, cool. He's just a centaur.
That's also the advantage when you have it from the other POV is you get to know Mulch and you get to know all of the other characters in the magic. And then you learn about Artemis. Yeah. But when you do it the other way around, it's like he doesn't actually interact with those people. Yeah. So they just don't matter in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What the fuck was that?
Abby exploded a bottle of water. But you know what? I kind of think it's neat. I don't even think it's that much worse than, you know, there was the Narnia movie that came out.
No, I loved the Narnia movie.
I actually really didn't care for them when they came out.
The sequels sucked, but that first one really got me.
Yeah, I get it.
It was the world I imagined. I think the casting was good.
I don't think this was that much worse than that. Like I said, if I was a kid, I would have thought this ripped. Like I would have known it's not perfect, but
the Narnia film had like an Imogen Heap song at the end. There was some class to it.
Well,
they pulled out
of course. Then I mean, there's no Imogen Heap song at the end of Artemis Fowl, so I got to dock it. The whole point.
The cast was amazing.
Yeah, the cast was great.
The world was exactly as anticipated, and they didn't muddle the plot.
No, I think you take this exact same cast and you literally just like restructure it like the book and you have like a 6.5 or a 7.
I just don't want to fight with you at the end of this episode, Michelle, but you're like making me fight with you right now.
I think
like you're asking for a fight.
I'm pretty sure I gave A Wrinkle in Time a 6 or something.
Oh, because that was charming, wasn't
it? So that's the only reason why I'm not giving this a 6. So I'm going to give it a 5.7. Maybe 5.8.
That's really high.
I think it's above average. Like I said, especially for its intended audience. If I was 10, I think it's better than the 10-year-old equivalent of A Good Year because I would walk away with something.
But the thing is, like, when you say like, oh, you know, like it's enchanting and if I was 10 I'd enjoy it, but I could still tell that the troll fight scene sucked. I think if I was 10 and I watched it the first 30 minutes as an adult, because I try and watch it thinking, what would I think of this if I was a kid as well? But that after the first 30 minutes, it became a mess for me. It was all over the place.
I actually thought the middle bit was better than I think you did. And there's movies I like as an adult that have scenes and sequences I don't really care for. Like movies that fall apart in the third act and I'm still like, hell yeah, I love that movie.
I feel like they just littered it with characters that should have been utilized better. There were fight scenes that were really confusing and strange.
That's why it's not an 8.
Yeah, and I didn't like Artemis at all. Like we didn't get to have that thing with him of like, oh yeah, he's actually a good guy. If anything, he starts off as a kid and then he starts wearing those glasses and that suit and you're like, who are you? I feel like I know Holly more than I know Artemis.
I agree with that, but that's just because it had the weird thing of like, by the midpoint, I'm like, oh, that's Artemis Fowl. The earlier bit is the sensitive one we learn about, but the middle one is... So that's why it was easier for me, I guess.
Yeah, I just think I didn't read the books either, so I don't have the nostalgia attached to it that you do.
If anything, this has inspired me to go and reread the books, even though they're kids' books. Kids' books are fun.
I just think that I don't have the nostalgia attached. I found the bit, like basically the last hour of the movie, very strange and messy. I didn't really get to form an attachment to the characters because I don't know them, because the film didn't tell me who they are really. But there's lots of fun, charming parts of it. I love the idea of it being this play on like Irish folklore and like the fairies and the goblins. Love that. But like I wouldn't watch this again. And to me, it is worse than A Good Year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, what's your rating then, huh?
Michelle, don't knock up.
Put your foot forward, huh? Don't be a coward. Say it.
I'm gonna give it a 3.8 out of 10.
The woke mob cancels Artemis Fowl again. We'll up yours.
This is political correctness.
Woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
It was just for them casting a black guy where there should have been a hunky Eurasian. How dare they? Well, that got heated right at the end there. That was Artemis Fowl. Guys, don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter at RateDescendPod. We're on TikTok at RatingDescending. Or you can email us at ratingdescending@gmail.com. We love the emails.
Or if you're like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. I like just them. I'm not a fan of the pod, but they seem like cool ladies.
But they're sick.
Well, you can find us and then, follow us and talk to us on social media. You can find
Don't talk to me.
On Twitter and Instagram at Michelle.St. Clair.
You can eat my fucking ass at Abigail J. Ward on Instagram.
And once you're done with that, you're wiping your mouth. You can leave
that was filthy. Have you ever wiped?
Leave Abby a review at
filthy fucking ass. Would not eat again.
Don't leave that review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if it's just about Abby's ass. Find somewhere leave Abigail Ward a Google review, but give the podcast a review.
Well, guys, that was Artemis Fowl. What are we watching next week, Michelle?
Next week we're watching Thugs of Hindostan.
Oh yeah, we've done a tad. We wanted to know what that was, and we saw it was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So
fingers crossed for another raw one.
Yeah.
It
looks pretty batshit.
What if RRR was bad?
Oh my god, what if King Khan is in this?
Oh hell yes.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think he is, but fuck yeah.
That'd be amazing. I hope.